This episode, Dr. Jeff Porter and I speak with three media innovators who are all entrepreneurial within their own organizations. Welcome back to another edition of Sport Media and Tech. I'm your host, Keel Blake. We have Dr. Jeff Porter here co-moderating today, and we have three very special guests joining us. So first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Kristen Geer. How are you doing today?
Very well, Keel. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so glad you're here. And we also have Ryan Berger from Hyper. How are you doing, Ryan?
Doing great, Keel. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. Happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and happy Friday, everyone. I know we're doing this during what probably is your Friday video happy hour. So thank you for taking that time out from your team to join us here now. And last but not least, we have Matt Vincent from Daytona Speedway and International. I'm sorry, he's from Daytona Speedway and International Speedway Corporation. So how are you doing, Matt?
Aside from having to stay inside when the weather is what it is,
yeah.
I'm doing pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Hey, happy to have you. And our relationship goes back, oh my gosh, to well, we're both at UCF. So I want to share with the students that you not only did your undergrad, but your graduate degrees at UCF. And then, so what we typically start out asking is, just your journey to where you got to today. And so, Kristen, you now are our CEO of Bleacher and work with Tennis One, but could you share with the students how you got to your role today?
Yeah, my background is varied. I started in television. I was an investigative reporter for 15 years. I did some news anchoring and other general assignment reporting, but I got really good at sales. There was something about journalism that taught me how to be really good at sales. And so I'd always wanted to start my own company. And so I left television news and started my own TV production company. We did syndicated television shows for a number of years. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved telling the stories. I loved working with the celebrities. I loved pitching to stations. I loved it. And then we got creamed during the recession, the 2008, 2009 recession. I pivoted our company to then start doing corporate videos for major corporations here in Minnesota, 3M, Cargill. We worked with a lot of big companies, but I was bored out of my mind. And I said, I can't do this for the rest of my life. That wasn't what I was meant to do. And at the same time, we had we had a baby, and I had my little girl, and I said, I know that it's time now to pivot again myself and say, all right, I'm going to stay home with her a little bit, for a little while at least. And I'm going to go back to school and get my master's. And so I went to Johns Hopkins and got my degree in digital communications. And I knew that television was a dying platform. I knew that mobile was the future. And so after I got my degree, my husband and I started this company called Bleacher. It's a mobile app sports development company. We develop apps for teams, leagues, tournaments, colleges, and universities. And we have a lot of fun doing it. We're primarily in 3 sports verticals. We do white label apps for some independent baseball teams. We do a number of fan engagement apps. We partner with a company called Sidearm, which is a Learfield IMG company. And we do fan engagement for a number of universities and colleges. And then we're really big in the tennis space. We somehow have created this opportunity for ourselves in tennis, and we now do the majority of the US Open Series and other prestigious tournaments like the Paris Masters, the Miami Open. We were supposed to be there last week. We're supposed to be at the Volvo Car Open this week. And so it's a bit devastating that we're not there. But at the same time, we're moving forward. We're excited about how we're pivoting now. And I think we're creating some pretty cool things as a result of this. So it's not all bad.
Yeah, Kristen, I appreciate you sharing a little of your path, and I know the students are going to enjoy that, as this is a sports media course, and so your background just really hits a lot of the different areas that we talk about in class. And I'm excited on this podcast here today to have two, other educators as well, in terms of that you teach, and then also Ryan. Why don't you share a little of your background and just your background in education too?
Yeah, so I grew up in advertising. I came from a advertising household. My dad ran his own agency in the 80s, wrote a lot of lines like that, very well, like Time to Make the Donuts and uh, Eat Get Fresh for Subway and Drive Safely for Volvo and other brands. So I grew up around the 30-second spot. But my career has been filled with helping brands do everything but run the 30-second spot. So as I've sort of helped companies get connected to culture, I've been able to do a number of different things that have been through a creative lens, specifically social, digital events, experiences, and more, that have allowed brands to identify the right people and let those people spread their message via word of mouth. And word of mouth is something that I'm really passionate about. And to Keel's question about education, I've spent a lot of time at the NYU Graduate Studies program, helping kids understand how to create word of mouth and teaching new media and word of mouth classes for 11 or 12 years. And then partnered about 7 years ago with 2 other individuals and started a company called Hyper, which is a digital platform with offices in New York, Israel, and San Francisco, and London. And it allows us to help brands identify those people through our platform. So instead of having to go through my phone and looking at who I'm connected to, which is a very different group of people now that I'm 43 and I'm married with 3 kids, I need a digital technology to tell me who my kids follow and who my kids want to be connected to. So people run the world. When people talk, other people listen. It is the most powerful form of media in the world. And I help companies get to those people to share that message.
Yeah, Ryan, it's been awesome to see what you've been able to do with your partnerships and just some of the activations that are so unique. So I know during the podcast, I'd love for you to share some of the activations that you've been able to do throughout your career, and then also with Hyper, just building the world's largest database. And I just want to thank you because you've not only helped a nonprofit that we're doing work with right now to help encourage kids to do good from home during this COVID-19 crisis, but you also provided the students, and I want to remind them, with some data for their projects. So I know they're going to want to thank you for that, as it was a big help for their individual projects to be able to have that audience demographic data for the teams they've been working with. Yeah,
I mean, I think one of the things when you look at teams, and we work with a number of them, and I've consulted with many others over the past couple of years, is teams, and Kristen mentioned it before, the words fan engagement is really where it's at, and finding ways to engage people while they're at a game, while they're at a match, who are going to be staring at their phones regardless of who's playing. It's just the way human nature is now. So finding those right tools. I've been a part of several technologies over the past sort of decade that have been almost too early, helping companies get in. It's just now exploding. And the reason why it's exploding is because of bandwidth, and Wi-Fi is finally good enough at the Miami Open or at the Madison Square Garden where you can actually use these tools and engage with them correctly so fans can get deeper into the loyalty for their teams.
Yeah. And Matt, I'd just like to have you share some of your background and journey from undergrad to where you are today, as it's really relatable to the students, being that you are a Knight and kind of walked the path that they're all walking right now.
Sure. I think one of the common threads we have here, everyone today, is my background is also a little bit different. My undergraduate work at UCF was in engineering technology. And then while I was there, my senior year, I worked at Lockheed Martin, worked on the Apache helicopters Arrowhead system, which is like a night vision system. It seems very cool, but at the time I was just not really enjoying myself. I grew up playing sports, watching sports, really loved sports, but didn't really know you could even study sports or how to even get my foot in the door. Started doing some research in my senior year, found out that UCF had one of the top graduate programs in the nation for graduate study in sports marketing. I applied. I actually didn't get in the first year. Didn't have a whole lot of experience in the background on sports. I didn't know what they were quite looking for. So I kind of took a year. I worked for UCF Athletics, where I kind of met you, taking tickets for baseball games, setting up the track and field, working in hospitality for football games, essentially doing everything I could to kind of get my foot back in the door, build some sports experience. I applied for the program next year, got in, Took 2 years to really just focus on studies and growing my network. While I was there, Dr. Sutton was there, Dr. Harrison, Dr. Lapchick. With Dr. Sutton in particular, he really made it his passion to kind of make sure students got placed. I know Ashley Turner's there now. She's doing a similar job where it's her passion as well. But while I was in graduate school, just made sure to continue to grow my network. Landed a spot through an old graduate assistant of Dr. Sutton's way back when at a sports marketing agency out in San Francisco. Went out there for a couple of years where I really kind of learned a lot about email marketing, social media marketing, websites, how to build mobile apps, and then transitioned that into my role today where I'm at Daytona International Speedway, doing a lot of similar things, leading more so on the strategy side, but leading a team that oversees the website for essentially the nation's largest NASCAR race, the Daytona 500, along with several other events.
Hey guys, I really appreciate hearing your background. And Kristen, once you start off with the next one is, you talk about pivoting, you talk about you being bored at your job and you and your husband starting your own company. To that end, really what inspires all of you? Like, what is the thing that gets you up in the morning, gets you going, and really hits your passion about what you do?
That's a really good question. To be really honest, it is just trying to really grow something special. I think that is no matter what I do, if I'm doing my adjunct professor job, I want to grow. I want to let my students grow. I want to be able to grow as a person and to make that successful. But in terms of my company, it's about trying to really create something special that will elevate the fan experience and change how sports fans use their mobile device to interact with teams and tournaments, sports organizations and sponsors, to be honest. I want to create something that they get excited about. I want it to be something special and not something that they expect. I don't like boring. I don't like just the expected, right? I want to create something. I want my team to create something that is going to stand out and be special and be different. I think that's the main thing for me. It drives me.
And Ryan, to that same point, what about you? You have a different background, you have a different series of experiences, and what drives you in the morning to get up and get started on your day?
I grew up playing hoops. Basketball is very near and dear to me. I played in college for a little while. So the thing that used to get me up in the morning was trying to see how many threes I can make out of 100, which was normally 98 or 90, 99 of them. So that used to be the thing that would drive me. And now what really drives me is family. I have 3 kids. I've been, with the same woman for a long time. And that drives me when you look at what's going on in the world today. You just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And valuing time with family, valuing, finding ways to spend experiences, time with kids that, are really invaluable. I coach my 6th grader. I was a point guard on the town basketball team, and I've coached him for several years. I coach my 3rd grade girl, and my 3-year-old works hard at home every single day on her handle, and hopefully will be the next Rebecca Lobo in the WNBA. I love spending time with my family. I love spending time with my kids, and what I do allows me to do that, and at the same time allows me to focus on work. And what drives me in the morning to wake up and go to work is actually making connections and making things happen. I love making deals and making connections and connecting the right people and seeing what could come out of it, and connecting a technology company to a big company and seeing how they might be able to work and service them. So that's what gets me up in the morning, besides my alarm on my iPhone.
Matt, same question. What about you?
Yeah, so the number one job I have in my role is to sell tickets. We don't sell tickets. I don't have a job. To do that through my channels on the digital side, we have to tell great stories. So what really kind of inspires me is how do I tell those stories in a cool, epic way, very similar to what Kristen was saying. Like, how can I create content that either gets people to go, damn, that's so cool, I have to go attend the Daytona 500, or I've got to see Daytona Supercross in person. Or if I'm covering an event live on social, they see it and go, God, why didn't I buy that ticket? I'm missing out. You know, you hear about the FOMO type of stuff all the time. It's like, that's the kind of content you want to create so that you and your friends come to our events next time. Excuse the language. I'm a very colorful person, but my team has a motto, and it's do more cool shit. So that's kind of our motto that we live by. Like, how can we innovate and do new things? How do we, you know, dip our toes into augmented reality, and what kind of cool stuff can we do there? What's the next thing that's on the list that gets people going, oh, that's really cool. I wish, you know, more tracks did what Daytona International Speedway did. So trying to be the best in our industry kind of drives me internally, and telling great stories and getting our fans that sense of, oh, I really need to be there and take that action to buy that ticket. That's kind of what inspires me.
Kristen, I want to follow up on something you said, and this will be it kind of segue into an interesting conversation. And Matt, you kind of hit on this a little bit. Now, some of you guys have really worked in fan engagement with fan experience, and now with the onset of COVID-19, you know, Matt, I would assume that you're probably not selling any tickets right now, or they're so significant delayed. And so, Kristen, for you to start with, what is that fan experience? What is your role, and what does that look like changing moving forward? Right, things are happening at a ridiculous pace. News changes every day, and so with your role, especially with the fan experience and the things that you have your hands on, what does the future look like moving forward? And will you have to continue to pivot and adjust as we come out of this whole ordeal?
Yeah. I can tell you that when this all started, when COVID-19 began to really become something that we recognized was going to be problematic for society, we immediately called everybody in and said, all right, here's a big problem. We see the economy diving. It was taking a nosedive immediately. And I'm like, we've got to do something quickly. We're a startup. I mean, this is a startup company. We don't have, you know, tons of venture capital backing us. We're like, this is a real problem for us. And with live sports, we're a live sports app company. Without live sports, we're dead in the water. We thought we had been so creative in creating these fabulous, fun games on top of our live sports engine, we call it. So we have games that are dependent on actual live scores. So Point Streak Live, for example, you get to pick each point as it's played in a tennis match, which is a lot of fun. It's very addicting. It's really a fun game, but it's dependent on live sports. So here we thought we had been so clever and so creative, and my team did such a great job creating these remarkable games. But without that, what do we do? And so immediately I said, all right, I want you all to go to your whiteboards. We need to like really think about how can we engage people. These fans need something to do. If there's no live sports, what are they going to do for the next 2-3 months? God willing, we'll be playing again by summer. But we don't know, right? And so in the meantime, how can we engage these fans? How can we continue to grow our product at a time when it's dead in the water? So we created some really cool live streams. We've connected with some great players to do some phenomenal live streams from their homes. And this week we started that, and that has been hugely successful already. We're getting some really great traction in that regard. We created a multiplayer Pong game and a game called Trivia Ace, which is automated trivia based on historical tennis play. Super creative. My team I'm so proud of my team. They really created 3 amazing new features in 3 weeks. And they're going to be, I think, a great driver of fan engagement especially in our Tennis One app over the next couple of months. I think the team's excited about it. I think that they're starting to see that, hey, we really can do this, and this could be meaningful. So I'm hopeful anyway.
Awesome, great. Because it looks like, you know, a lot of what you've worked on can be used after, even after we get past this crisis, right? It looks like another asset in your arsenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Ryan, so what about you? Like, and things that you have your day to day on, how does COVID-19 look future wise after we get past this pandemic?
I think what we really tend to work on is influencer marketing. And when you think about people being home today, influencers is really the easiest tool or channel to activate. You don't need to fly them in anywhere. They need to post. They don't need to host an event, and everyone's staring at their screens all day. So we're seeing a significant surge of interest from brands that are realizing that that's the case. The challenge becomes the message that they deliver. The influencers putting out a message regarding materialistic, regarding shoes or clothes or the latest Yeezys isn't necessarily the message that a brand should be portraying, but helping versus talking at them and talking at the consumers is really where brands are using influencers very, very effectively. And we're seeing a number of different companies and different initiatives like the one that I'm working on with Keel, with Hasbro around the Do Good From Home Challenge that is very focused on using influencers the right way and driving engagement with them during COVID-19.
That's awesome. Matt? I mean, again, like I work in a sporting field as well, and we're not selling any tickets right now. And so I imagine you guys are work on several contingencies about what startup looks like and what the future looks like. So for you, what does that look like for at the Daytona International Speedway?
Yeah, I mean, from an industry standpoint, even from an employee standpoint, all of our employees are now reduced salary. So we're at 80%. We're starting to be forced to use vacation days. And it all sucks, but it could be worse, right? So the XFL today announced they're laying off everybody. So I still have a job, so we're still thankful. That being said, we've lost some of our races. We were supposed to host the 3-day music festival coming up in May. It was supposed to be a humongous event that we were looking forward to. That's now gone. With that said, though, I will say the NASCAR industry in particular has done a really great job in transitioning into esports. So from the moment they started canceling some of these races, kind of started organically, where some of the drivers and crew chiefs and spotters started talking to each other online saying, hey, let's hop on iRacing, which is a simulation, kind of a video game, but more simulated, where drivers are driving in these rigs are as close to the real thing as you can get, and they're racing each other online. It started on Twitch. A couple 100,000 people are watching. That starts to pick up momentum, and now NASCAR's kind of galvanized the industry where they're doing weekly pro invitational series. So you've got, Dale Earnhardt Jr., you've got your real drivers. They're actually driving in a race. They're driving at Bristol Motor Speedway when, that Sunday they wouldn't have been driving at Bristol Motor Speedway. That started to pick up a little more traction each week. There's been some additional events added each week. So now we're up to 3 or 4 events that have gone from Twitch. They're now being telecast on Fox and NBC. So where you're trying to put some Band-Aids on things, where you're losing broadcasts on live sports, we at least have a couple-hour broadcast of some live esports. It's definitely not going to, stop the dam from flooding, and you're going to lose a lot of money on live sporting events. But it provides some content, kind of gives a little bit of escapism where, you're at home watching a race, you're watching Kyle Busch, you're watching your favorite driver's race. It's just not real, but it's as close as real to you as you can get. And then that they're starting to look at are there possibilities of racing without fans, and what does that look like? So it's definitely something where the sooner we can all get back to normal, the better, especially in our industry. But as you said, there's contingency plan A, B, C, D, E. I mean, from an industry standpoint, we're working on if we start in May, if we start in June, if we start in July, if we have to cancel, like there's 4 or 5 different plans being put into action, and we're all just kind of waiting to see.
Yeah, each of you are innovators in your own space, and you've talked about, how this time has just kind of put each of your organizations in a position to find new ways to engage fans and engage audiences. But, let's fast forward, and as things, are returning back to normal and prior to COVID-19, each of you also have been working on really new and just innovative technologies around stadium services in terms of second screen experiences in stadium or home entertainment. So could you share a little bit in each of your roles what some of those technologies are and how you're developing better relationships with fans for the brands that you work with?
So what we're doing is creating, it's all about what's next. What Matt just spoke to. He said it's all about, you know, what's next? What's the next big thing? We're experimenting with AR. We're experimenting with a number of things. We are too. It's what we have to do, because the attention span of fans today is so small. We don't have any option. At the same time, fans expect everything in one place. They expect the comprehensive app. They want everything in one place. They don't want to have to download 50 apps to have one experience, or to have one really great experience as a fan of a particular team. So what we've tried to do is create that comprehensive app, but creating different feature sets that are specific to various sports organizations. Everybody's looking for something different. We try to be very unique in what they're looking for. We listen to what they need and try to fill those needs. And then try to transition that new, if we've created something new, how can we transition that across the board? Can we use that in new ways for other partners as well? So it's really about trying to just be that creative, innovative entity that's always thinking and always listening to the client and the client's needs. And sometimes the client is also the fan. We're definitely learning that we're a B2B2C company, and that creates all kinds of complications. But at the same time, it's really interesting and fun, and I like that challenge. I like having the fan as the ultimate client. And we've been able to do a lot of research over the last few years as a result of that. And the things that we've learned, it's really interesting. It's really interesting. And things are changing dramatically in that space. So it's kind of a fun place to be right now.
Yeah, you know, Kristen, it's awesome to see what you've been able to come up with Tennis One, and just, you know, being able to interact with people, you know, looking at other stats while they're, you know, in a venue where there's multiple matches going on at the same time, the trivia to engage like you've referenced. And so Ryan, I want to ask you is, you know, you work across a variety of different brands. You see a lot in the markets. Where do you see things changing the most? And what is the human behavior that drives some of this in terms of needs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's companies that are really having a focused technology that can adhere to the current times are companies that are clearly, you know, rising right now. Zoom being one of them as we talk. I'm involved in one called Famer, which is a sports platform that helps kids train with their teams. And if I take my son, he goes and practices with his basketball team 3 nights a week. He still has 4 nights a week to do homework. So if he wants to have a better crossover, he can go on YouTube and look up how to do a better crossover. But I wouldn't see him doing that. His coach wouldn't see him doing that, and he'd probably half-ass it. So what the app allows you to do is actually have your coach upload the drills that they want their kids to do, and then they have an on-demand library on Famer. And then the kids can actually do the drills. Each week a new workout is posted. They can record the drills and send the drills back to their coach. So they begin to have a one-on-one discussion. It works really nicely for the kids even before COVID, because they can work on what they need to work on as opposed to just going outside and trying to make threes like Bradley Beal. The way it works nicely with the teams is that if you actually put us into the registration fee, so if you're paying $300 a season for your child to play soccer, maybe you charge $400 or $450 now, and that extra $150 a rev share between Famer, our platform, and the team. So it's a nice way for the team to make more additional revenue, for the kids to get better, more personalized coaching. And then obviously there's brand opportunities all over the place for leagues, for teams, for brands to be able to integrate into there. So we're going to be announcing some really exciting stuff soon regarding that aspect of it. But as COVID has happened, we've seen a lot of organizations and local teams take advantage of the platform so kids can work out through the tool, and the coach doesn't actually have to do it live. It could be on demand.
Yeah. So Ryan, I have to ask, is there an age limit to that app? Because I need to work on my 3 while I'm stuck at the house right now and can't get out and play. So
The age limit is 91, so hopefully
yeah.
you fit in there.
All right. Yeah. I'm talking to you, Zach. All right. So Zach is one of our students, and run into him at the downtown Y all the time playing basketball. So, all right.
Yeah, Keel's got that nasty jump shot, Zach. Be careful.
Yeah. All right, and Matt, how about what you're doing at Daytona International Speedway? How are you leveraging, second screens and or just that in stadium second experience?
Yeah, so more of my focus is definitely in venue and while fans are attending our events. So we put together some really cool programs through our mobile app where we reward them for essentially exploring the venue. If you're not familiar, Daytona International Speedway is over 500 acres big, so essentially becomes its own little city, especially during a time like Daytona 500. We've got several partners that are paying to be on site and activate. So how do we drive foot traffic to those display areas? How do we drive fans to engage with them? Well, we do it a lot through our mobile app. We've got a really cool program called Daytona Rewards that essentially kind of acts as a scavenger hunt where the more locations you visit and more signs you scan with your phone, you unlock different badges, which then qualify you for different prizes. Our prizes include anything from waving the green flag for a race to taking your photo with the winner in victory lane to anything all the way down to like a small keychain. So we have these really cool experiences that we're giving away that drive the engagement and interaction with the platform while we're there. I don't do a lot on the second screen stuff, especially with fans at home, since I'm focusing on the venue, but we have had some discussions. We've talked about different ideas. There are a lot of cool things you can do with TVs these days, sometimes a little bit creepy. But we've discussed ideas where there are some low frequency sounds that can go through TVs, especially through broadcast, that will trigger your phone. Where if it's green flag, your phone lights up green. If it's yellow flag, your phone lights up yellow. I know the Warriors did something very similar a few years ago with I think it was a Philips Hue light bulb, where when it was game time, the lights would start flashing blue and yellow and kind of sync up with the broadcast, so you knew what was going on. It was really cool technology. We're not there yet, but it's definitely some ideas that we're talking about. And then with all this COVID stuff going on, I think you're going to start to see a lot of virtual viewing experience come to the forefront. So you've seen some stuff in the NBA where they've done some courtside viewing. You could put on a headset and watch the game as if you're at that seat. I know Japanese baseball has done similar things where they have robots, literal robots sitting in the outfield. You can purchase that seat and view the game from that robot's perspective. So even though as these events start to talk about, okay, is it possible for baseball to play with no fans? Is it possible to go racing with no fans? They're going to be on broadcast TV, but as Kristen said earlier, TV's on the decline. So that's not going to, make up everything. You're going to need to start to find new ways to engage with fans at home, get them involved in the event itself. And I think you're going to start to see some virtual viewing activities coming pretty shortly as these different sports leagues and mobile app developers say, how can we get fans that are sitting at home involved in these live sporting events when they can't physically be there?
Yeah, and you talk about the experiences that they can't have when they can't physically be there, and then you're really also trying to share and sell the experience of being there as this all comes back. And so I want to ask, how are each of you partnering with social media influencers or other people that have influence to show off some of this new and innovative technology or the experiences that you're creating within the game day environment?
Yeah, I will say that in terms of our white label app product, we really hadn't worked with any influencers. But we with our own Tennis One proprietary app, we recognized we really need to, especially in terms of getting some of the key players, which is expensive, right? It's not an inexpensive venture to get a player to participate in the influencer way. But in this era with COVID-19, tennis happens to be a sport where they're independent contractors. They're not getting paid like the basketball players, the football players, the hockey players. They're still going to get paid, even if they're not playing. They're still going to get paid, but not tennis. Tennis, they're independent, and so some of these players are really in dire straits. And so we've offered them an opportunity with Tennis One and to be an influencer, to to pay for downloads, if you will. That's the cost of activation for us. And so that is proving to be very successful. We recognize that that importance, that need to do that. And we've got we've really done our homework in terms of the social, the digital media, the audits. That's key for all your students to learn to do an audit, to see who those influencers, who are the most important for you, if you're going to go that route, because it is expensive. And so we're dipping the toes in the water and trying this out. And I think that it's going to be fun and interesting. I actually think somebody like Ryan could help us a great deal. It might be fun to reach out to Ryan later to find out if he's got any advice, but it is something that we're trying, and I think it could be good.
See, I know I like coming on these podcasts.
You got a new client, and I'm hoping that Matt will have a new client down the road here too, because I can help Matt. I really can. You got to always be selling, right? You just have
always.
ABCs. You got to know your ABCs.
That's right. That's right.
I think one of the things that Kristen alerted to, which makes a lot of sense, is really understanding the audience of who you're trying to reach. And I think a lot of times the influencer marketing companies and brands get confused and focus on the influencer, when actually the influencers are commodities. There's millions of them out there. It's really a matter of who is moving the needle with the audience you're trying to reach, and then how do we find back into those people. I always like giving the Kate Upton example. We've had a number of clients that worked with Kate to promote skincare and fashion. But when you look at her audience, the 5 most dominant interests of her audience is humor, fashion, gaming, NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball. Why? Because her audience of 11.5 million followers is 8 million are men. And she's married to Justin Verlander. Her audience is more interested in when the NBA is going to start up again versus what the latest blouse is from Calvin Klein. So thinking about it like that is really focused on who the audience is, and that at Hyper is how we help companies determine who they should work with, not necessarily on selling an influencer, but much more focused on who their audience is and why they might be the right fit. We've done a number of things with the LA Dodgers as a great example. When I think to myself that we're working with the Dodgers to identify the right influencers, they don't need help in identifying influencers. Where they really have done a great job is in modernizing their approach, because they're getting calls every day from people saying, can we get free tickets and come to the game tonight? And it's very difficult for them to understand, who do we give tickets to? Who do we really give, VIP experience to? And they're used to working with, Larry King and old, long-time season ticket holders for a long time of the Dodgers. So who is the 16-year-old in LA that's moving the needle? They use a technology to be able to really determine that. And that's where we can really help companies like Kristen's and others.
And to jump in there, what I would also say, I think where a lot of people are lacking, is the analytics behind what those influencers are doing for you, and are they accomplishing what they're supposed to be accomplishing. I know me in particular, I'm probably the slowest adopter of influencers in the industry. Like when I first think of influencers, I think of micro bloggers or micro influencers, and we've stayed clear away from them right now, strictly because, like Kristen mentioned, they tend to be expensive, and I can use that money elsewhere at a more efficient cost. And it's a very difficult for us to measure, okay, if I give, this Hispanic marketing person or Hispanic blogger or Hispanic content creator who wants to come out to our race and try and reach a new audience, well, are they just going to follow his content because they like his content, or are they actually going to buy a ticket? And that's extremely hard to measure at this point. Now, when we talk about, macro influencers, we typically will leverage our athletes. So for us, that's our drivers. If we talk about our music festival, it's our artists. But how do we leverage them to kind of sell and pitch the products that we're looking for? We definitely work hand in hand with the sanctioning body of NASCAR, or we'll work with our promoter in the concerts and create specific content for getting fans out here. But we don't do a whole lot with influencers just because it's very hard to measure and it's extremely costly, like Kristen said.
So guys, I you know what, I love sitting here on these podcasts because I learn a lot from all of you, and you know, having the idea of like scanning barcodes around an activation site at Michigan Stadium, you know, I took that note, and I will be passing along that note here to our Learfield IMG folks here at Michigan moving forward. But one of the questions I do have to ask is, our students are preparing to graduate, they're preparing to move on with their lives and look at jobs. What are some of the skill sets that you're looking for in people that you would potentially hire, you would recommend for a job, or even putting yourself back in that student mindset of, I'm graduating, looking for a job. I may have some experience, Matt, I may not, right? What are some of those skill sets, Kristen, that you're looking for from those graduates that are coming out?
Yeah, it's a great question. And as a startup, we've hired a lot of young, inexperienced individuals straight out of college, as well as interns. I like to hire interns, and I like to promote those interns to full-time positions when I can. But one thing that I've noticed, one of the struggles that I've had as a startup, is a lot of the college students who are new graduates are coming out of school with great degrees, whether it be sports management, or media, or communications, or what have you. And I'm not talking about the development side of our business. I'm talking about the communications, the marketing, that side of the business, speaking more to your students. And the lack of specific skills is really problematic. The skill set is far too broad, and I immediately have to jump into, all right, I got to train you how to do this. I have to teach you how to do this. And I would love it if they would come to me and say, hey, guess what? I am proficient in full Adobe Suite. I am proficient in editing. I am proficient in whatever it is, whatever skill set you are really good at, whatever you love to do most, get really good at that. And then promote the heck out of that. Like, tell your future employer, I'm really good at this. Let me show you. And that will be so appreciated. It's one thing that I've noticed, especially in the communication degrees. It's a little too vague. And I need them to be a little more specific in their expertise, if you will, even coming out of college. So develop those specific skills if you can.
No, that's absolutely great. I hear the same thing from some employers that, you know, they're coming back from our students and saying, hey, you know, we love the students, they're great students, but their skill set, like, I'm really trying to confuse about where to place them, I think, is the biggest question mark. And Ryan, for you, you know, when you look at what you're doing and the kind of opportunities that you may have available, what are the kind of skill sets you're looking for from the students?
Well, for somebody like myself who spends a lot of time on screens and when works in influencer and technology, I'm looking for people who can actually have conversations with people and can be social and aren't able, don't go out to dinner and spend 3 hours just staring at their screen. I think it's a big challenge with young people growing up. They're, you know, when conflicts happen, when anything happens, they just sort of go back to looking at that. And I think it's really important for people to have speaking skills, public speaking skills, debate skills, ability to talk about their argument and their point of view in a way that people are going to respond. I think it's going to be a very big challenge in the next generation of people who are, you know, just so focused on playing video games and using virtual technology and texting people, right? And one of the things that's been interesting about Corona is actually a lot of people are reconnecting, are picking the phone up, are asking old friends to even just do Zoom. While it's technology, at least you're seeing people. I have a friend that I never get to see, but all of a sudden we're talking about, you know, Zooming each other. So that to me is a big challenge, but I really do believe in trying to find people who can be very social and can be interactive and can hold conversations.
Yeah, that's that's another critique as well. You know, especially I'm in a fundraising business, and so most of my job is about being able to go to those events, go to those donors, and have those varying conversations about, you know, what we're trying to promote and try to ask them for money. And so being able to debate, being able to have conversations, being able to know and be able to read body language, those things are invaluable. Matt, what about you? And you graduate, with Keel and your own experience at UCF. What do you see as some important skill sets for our students to be able to take away from this conversation?
Yeah, so when I'm hiring, it's typically for a role on my digital marketing team. So very similar to Kristen, I'm looking for someone with hard skills. One thing in particular that I typically will look for is someone who knows how to code in HTML. It's a basic code, and it's basic coding language, and it can do a lot of different things. It helps me understand that you can help with our website, you can help with the mobile app, a lot of different applications there. And it also lets me know, okay, if you learn HTML, I know you can learn another language. So if I need to teach you CSS, I need to teach you SQL, we can do that because I know you have at least the aptitude to learn a different computer language. So I get a lot of students, especially coming from the marketing side, trying to get into digital marketing that don't have the technical skills I need or I'm looking for, especially on the website, to kind of jump right in. Like without Kristen said, then I have to focus on, okay, how do I train them and get them up to speed? The other side of it, I get a lot of people trying to break into social media, or they want to work in social media, and they're, well, I've got a Twitter, I've got an Instagram, I can do it, no problem. Well, that doesn't really cut it anymore. You need to really learn how to edit in video, and learn how to edit videos for specific channels. So if you look at 5 years ago, videos had to be 30 seconds or less because that's what everyone thought the attention span was on Facebook or Twitter, or the algorithms would dictate how long your videos could be. A couple years ago, everyone starts to say, okay, well, long form videos are okay again. You can start to put together your 3, your 5, your 10-minute videos, put them on YouTube, put them on Facebook. If the content is good enough, people are going to watch it. Now you've got, okay, that's okay. You've got both ends of the spectrum. You've got your YouTubes. Now you've got TikTok, which is 15 seconds or less. How you edit videos for these different content platforms is extremely different, and it can be difficult. So finding someone that learns and knows how to edit video and create quality content will definitely set you apart from someone who's just on social media because they have to be there.
Yeah. So, what I've heard is each of you has had to take risks in your career, have had to try new things and really pioneer in different areas. So, we have basically one more question, and then we're going to wrap up with a message to the students. But this question comes down to, could you describe either, your biggest success when you tried something new, or it could be your biggest failure that you learned from when you tried something new? Because ultimately to innovate, you have to try, right? So, Kristen, what lessons of success or failure have you learned?
I will say that I think, and this was not something I would ever think I would have been good at, but I think I've become really good at pivoting. And I did it when we had the 2008-2009 recession, and I did it successfully. And the company, had I not been bored, would have survived, would have succeeded. And we're doing it again now. And I'm not willing to let our little startup fold. I'm not willing to do that. And I'm not willing to lay my team off. I care too much about these people. And there are too many people counting on me to let this fail. So my goal is to make sure that we don't. And how can I do that? I have to pivot quickly. I have to get this team really focused and moving in the right direction together. And I think that's a success for me. And I think that I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the ability to get my team to do that. I think they will be too. I think in the end, as stressful as all of this is, and as much sleep as I've lost, and I have far too many gray hairs and wrinkles now that have come over the last 3 weeks. But at the same time, I think that it's a move in the right direction for our team. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah, Kristen, we were talking about this before we started the podcast, but it was just clear when I visited Minnesota and saw your office and just met the team, how together the team is and how aligned they are in what you're doing and how much they care for each other. And, just even the relationships that you have with your clients, how authentic they are with how you decorate the office. So it's all in the details. And even just walking as an outsider, I can see what you're talking about and how much you care in that. So I appreciate you sharing that with the students, because it's so important that we have professionals raise up that do care about the people that they're working with. And Ryan, you have a lot of interesting and awesome stories of successful partnership activations. But, what would you say is the one that's, just stands above everything that you've done?
I guess it's probably a project I worked on about 12 years ago with my client Polaroid, and we worked with the music group Outkast and developed the song "Shake It Like a Polaroid Picture." And the reason why I picked that is because it's really relevant today, right? And if you think about a platform like TikTok, right, that's how songs go viral today, just by being on TikTok. This was like sort of the original TikTok, people doing a dance that if you go to a bar mitzvah or a wedding, you still see someone in the corner shaking the Polaroid film. So it was a really great lesson and an incredible experience touring with Outkast. But at the end of the day, the whole idea and the whole goal was to make Polaroid the champion. So I never forgot the fact that the brand was still Polaroid and that we still had to get Polaroid out there into the real world, just using incredible artists to be able to push it out. And the only thing I would just add, and Kristen talked a little bit about it before, is she mentioned pivoting. I use the word flexible. It's very important to be flexible in times like this and as we come out of this. The landscape is changing so fast. Technology changes so quickly, and being able to be flexible and understanding what's next and embracing it is incredibly important.
Yeah, I love the story that you share about Polaroid and Outkast, Ryan, and looking back as a case study, it was so neat to see Polaroid actually putting out press releases saying, no, don't shake your Polaroid picture because it's not going to help it. But it just created this back and forth conversation that continued to blow up that story. And but I hear you, and I think it's so great to hear both of you talk about being flexible and pivoting and always being ready for change. So,
hey, Keel,
yeah,
how many students do you think actually know that song? I want to ask that. How many do you think actually know? Actually, the first question, no. Second question,
oh man,
remember that song.
They might think of Polaroid as something that Wilt Chamberlain used to use.
Yeah. Oh man, Jeff, that's a great point. I wasn't thinking about that. Wow.
Think about that. Right?
Yeah.
To this generation, LeBron James is still the greatest of all time. Like, no,
yeah.
there's one great, and they'll call it that's it. There's no others.
I love it. We're gonna have to post a picture of a few Polaroids here when we post this internally in web courses. But,
and we might do that. We might do the Kodak cameras too. Already.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. And Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I got to follow that. Fantastic. Also, you're going to hear my dog barking in the background, of course. He wakes up as we start to close up.
Hey, we're all working from home. I've been doing the same thing, muting. I got the dogs, the cats, everyone. Yeah. Yesterday, one of the cats was bombarding me up here with stuffed animals.
That was
shelf.
Funny. I asked you guys missed it. Keel's cat almost knocked off a couple things off his top shelf. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
I'm also ashamed. I shouldn't be surprised, but I'm also ashamed that I didn't know that Polaroid was actually involved in that song, and I loved that song so much. I shouldn't. I'm a marketer. I should have been. Oh yeah, duh. That's probably product placement. I don't know how I didn't put that together.
Why the story is so great, because it's such a surprise. That's why it works so well. Also,
it seemed 100% organic. My biggest success, I'd probably say, when I came to Daytona about 6 years ago, we were in the first year of a 3-year, $400 million renovation project that really took a facility that was built in 1959 and brought it up to today's standards. Fans want to, they want concourses. They want all these amenities that they're used to getting at NBA arenas and football stadiums. And a lot of the NASCAR facilities and speedways just weren't up to par. So our track kicked off a multi-year program where they've started to really invest in their properties and upgrade their tracks. Well, my team's project, and at the time my team was, me and 2 others, aside from, a development team, were tasked with creating a new website and a new mobile app within about a 7-month period from design to completion and launch. So working with the whole RFP process, finding partners to suit both of those needs, finding partners on design process, working with the right developers, and going all the way through the steps of RFPs, agency selection, internal processing, creating all the content, and then launching both the website and the mobile app on time, in time for our new unveiled, the brand new facility, is probably what I would say is our biggest accomplishment from my team's perspective.
Yeah, and Matt, real quick, could you share with the students, when I was introducing you, I want to make sure to correct it. You're with the Daytona International Speedway, and there are multiple entities involved, right, in terms of what you do daily, in terms of the brand. So could you just share briefly with the students kind of, International Speedway Corporation, Daytona International Speedway, NASCAR, et cetera?
Yeah, it's all convoluted because it was all started by one gentleman, Bill France, way back when. Eventually split into two companies, which was NASCAR and was International Speedway Corporation, ISC. ISC owned about 13 racetracks. Daytona was one of them. But all of that's changed because we actually went through a merger last year. So now NASCAR has bought ISC. So as of November, we're all technically NASCAR employees, but we all do a lot of different things. So I focus on Daytona International Speedway. We've got folks around the nation that, someone works at Talladega. They do a lot of the same things at Talladega. And then we've got counterparts at NASCAR, which is our sanctioning body, doing digital marketing efforts, supporting the tracks, supporting the series, focusing a lot more on competition, whereas I focus more on the venue and the fan experience at the venue.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think one of the things, that students, really need to make sure they do the research on is just how different entities have relationships with each other, so they know when they're applying for jobs, who they're actually applying to work for and work with, and where the relationships are. And so I appreciate you sharing that. And, before we wrap up, and I want to be respectful of all your time, we're running just a few minutes over here, but, I just want you to look right into the camera. All the students right now are expressing concern, right, around graduating into this environment that we're in. But I just want you to share with them some direct advice, from your heart on what you would tell them they should do or they should be confident in as they graduate or move on to the next semester of study.
Well, I will start by just saying it's Easter weekend. So for me, I encourage you to have faith, not fear. And I truly believe that if you can have faith in, in higher being and in yourself and in what you're doing, and what your goals are, it's all going to be fine. It's going to be okay. I know that this is really hard. It's hard for all of us. Believe me, I know, but it's going to be okay. And I think as a country, we're going to come out stronger because of this. You, as starting in your careers, you know what? Use this time to earn, learn that extra skill, to really be marketable when you have that chance to get the next job or your first job. It will make you better. So that'd be my advice. And good luck.
My thought is there's a lot of opportunities out there. So, go after something that you love and have some passion for it, but also have some fun. I look back at my college career and college life, and you only get a certain number of years in college, and then you're off, and then you have a lot of years in the rest of the side. So, have some fun, stay focused, and wash your hands.
If I was in your shoes right now, what I would probably be doing is spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, like Kristen said, learning skills and growing your network. So if you're into advertising and you live in Orlando, you should be joining advertising groups and trying to find people that live in Orlando. Reach out to them on LinkedIn, say, hey, I'd love to sit in a Zoom chat with you, get to know you for about 15 minutes. And that's what you should be doing. You should be getting to know people, get to know how they got to where they were, get to know what you can be doing better, and really just create real relationships with people, because that's all you can really do right now. And then I would say I would utilize a few what I call LinkedIn hacks. Anytime you click on someone's profile, what happens? It alerts them that you looked at their profile. And what are they going to do? Natural curiosity, they're going to go look at your profile. If you're applying for jobs, you're applying for the marketing coordinator for the Orlando Magic, utilize LinkedIn and find out, okay, if it's a coordinator role, it probably reports up to the manager role or probably reports up to a director. Address your cover letter to that person. That's going to put you one step ahead of whoever else is addressing their cover letter as Dear Sir or Miss or Dear Hiring Manager. even if it's the wrong person that the job's going to report to, at least the fact that you spent time to look into their company, it's going to go back and show you've done a little bit more. I would also say submit a cover letter, because I can't stress enough how many people are not submitting cover letters. It blows my mind. I'm a stickler for it. I won't even look at your application if you don't have a cover letter, just because for me that signifies if you're not going to put in the time in your job application and put in the time to create a cover letter, I'm not going to put the time in to look at your job application. So for me, what I would be doing right now is growing your network, reaching out to people. Everyone's stuck inside. They've got nothing to do. Get on a Zoom call, get to know somebody for 5 and 15 minutes, and then let them know, hey, once this is all over, I'd love to take you out, grab a cup of coffee, grab a beer, and then continue to grow those real relationships.
And that's a wrap for this episode. Join us next time to talk with Michelle Stanger of UCF Athletics, Michael Rust from the Nashville Predators, and Michael Ferris from the Country Music Association when we talk about big data and analytics.